The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Throughout this session of the House, the Premier has repeatedly trumpeted Standard & Poor's recent revision of the province's credit rating. And it's important, as everybody recognizes a positive credit rating for the province is, it's also true that this trumpeting rings hollow to a lot of people in the province. Amongst them would be those single people who must rely on income assistance and whom the government is forcing to live at the moment on $810 a month, the second lowest assistance level anywhere in the country. I submit that as long as this remains the case, bond rating agency or no bond rating agency, the government's economic work remains a failure. And I want to ask the Premier, will he acknowledge that this is a fair and a reasonable assessment?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable for recognizing the Standard & Poor's has recognized the great work of our province, Mr. Speaker, and all Nova Scotians to continue to improve the financial outlook of our province. But, Mr. Speaker, it is not just simply to get to an end to means, Mr. Speaker, by balancing your budget. There's a reason for that. Today, I celebrated public servants who are dealing with the issue of program of opportunities for Nova Scotians. Over 650 young Nova Scotians have a job because of that investment we made into that particular program, Mr. Speaker. Today, Mr. Speaker, I recognize the Department of Immigration, Mr. Speaker, who's hitting every target to increase our population, which is providing new economic opportunities. This past weekend, I celebrated with the Lebanese community, Mr. Speaker, who are not only building this city, Mr. Speaker, but they're hiring our sons and daughters and providing more job opportunities, Mr. Speaker. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the honourable member, when we had an opportunity, the single largest tax cut in the history of our province was directly to the very people he's referring to. We know there's more work to do. We're going to continue to make sure we have the right balance sheet to make those investments.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
And under the heading of those for whom the credit rating news rings hollow when we hear it trumpeted in this kind of way, are those who are working in the province for minimum wage. Here's a fact that Standard & Poor's doesn't mention, that 40% of the people who live below the poverty line in Nova Scotia have a full-time, all-year-round job, and often are unable to buy their groceries because their job doesn't pay them enough to do so. And the reason for that is that we are going to have in 1 week the lowest minimum wage in the entire country. So I want to ask the Premier, does he not feel some sense of, at this point, having fallen short, just shy now of the 6th year of his government being in power, when we're in a situation where the lowest paid people in our province are the lowest paid in the entire country?
The Honourable Premier.
Speaker, again, I want to thank the honourable for the question. As again, my first answer, I said the single largest tax cut in the history of our province is directed, Mr. Speaker, directed towards those Nova Scotians that he's referring to. Mr. Speaker, one of the mistakes, though, I will say, and we're going to continue to look for ways, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that we improve the lives of all Nova Scotians. Mr. Speaker, we're also, when it comes to the minimum wage, following what the program that was put in place by the Democratic Party, he's probably right, Mr. Speaker. It probably was a mistake, and I should review it.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Others who remain unuplifted by the various pieces of financial information the Premier is bringing forward are the people who took out last year the 200,000 payday loans that were lent in our province, and the 4,000 people in our province who declared personal bankruptcy. So I want to ask, does the Premier not find it a bit unseemly or a bit unfitting to speak in these self-congratulatory and boastful times at a time in the midst of a time when so many people in our province are experiencing such intense financial problems?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, more Nova Scotians are working today than ever before, Mr. Speaker, in full-time jobs. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, we're seeing startups increasing in our province, improving, Mr. Speaker, job opportunities for young Nova Scotians. We're seeing the construction boom, not only in this city, but in our highways across the province that are hiring Nova Scotians, Mr. Speaker. We're seeing young people, Mr. Speaker, who see a future for themselves, attaching them to workplace in this province. Mr. Speaker, we're leading the country when it comes to economic outlook. Every other major financial institution is wrecking the good work that our province is doing, the good work that Nova Scotians are doing, and we're going to continue to make sure that we provide economic opportunities for all Nova Scotians, Mr. Speaker.